This is taking a hold of me for sure. Baby, come cool.
Hey everyone, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Yes, this is your baby girl, Adiponju Rebecca, and welcome back to your favorite weekend broadcast, Essential Words. Yes, today we are bringing to you a good and a great guest. Yes, conservationists, and many more. So, and I'm very sure you can't wait to hear from our guest in person of Olaoluwa Adetula. Yes, we'll be talking on the topic we call how to be generous without giving out money, how to be generous without money. Yes, most people actually today, when they say, okay, whenever you mention the word generous, they assume it's just all about giving out money. So we're just gonna hear more about that from our guests in person of Olaoluwa Adetula. So I would just like you to stay back, relax your mind and words, hear from our wonderful guest. So before that, let me remind that it is so important you know who you are, what you are, and decisions you make. Thank you very much, and over to Olaoluwa Adetula.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm happy to speak on how to be generous without money. Generosity is a good virtue that we can possess. Generosity is a good virtue that one can possess. And of course, it is the willingness to give support and share things with people who are in need. It is the willingness to give support and share things, especially with those in need of them. All right, this is a very critical virtue that we must learn to build on. If you have been doing it before, if you have been acting it out before, this is a call for us to do more. It is a virtue that can never go obsolete. It is a virtue that can never be out of time. And that is why we must continue to be generous, especially to people around us, especially to friends, to family members, and of course, to people we do not know. We can be generous to people we do not know, people we are meeting for the first time, and of course, people we are familiar with. We can be generous. There are several things we can do. There are those little acts of us that might look as though we are familiar with, but then when we continue to act them, when we continue to do them, it shows how generous we are to people. And this is critical. Number one, saying thank you to people is an act of generosity. When you receive a kind act from people, when things are being done for you, saying thank you to people is an act of being generous. Appreciating gifts, appreciating people's effort to make you grow, appreciating people's efforts to make you develop is an act of generosity, and this is critical. All right, giving referrals to people is an act of being generous, is an act of generosity. When you refer people for opportunities, when you refer people for amazing things, when you refer people for good things, they are act of generosity. Giving referrals for people to move on to the next stage of their lives is an act of being generous. Also, you can be generous by promoting people's business of friends, family members, colleagues at work, and of course, people you do not know. You can promote their business. It is an act of generosity. Also, sharing opportunities with people, sharing opportunities within your networks and even outside your network is an act of generosity. This is something we need to learn more on. Sometimes you might have access to opportunities that might not be beneficiary to you, but then you might have people within your network who are in their need of such opportunities. And of course, you might have people on your social space who might be in need of those opportunities. So, sharing opportunities is an act of being generous. Also, giving compliments to people, appreciating people when they come out nice, appreciating people when they do amazing stuff, appreciating people when they give amazing speeches, when they are moving from one level of success to another is an act of generosity. These are some of the things we must learn as people, as individuals, as intellectuals, that it is important for us to be generous. And lastly, one thing I want us to note is that as much as we see people who give as generous people, we as receivers too, we can show our act of generosity by giving compliment to good things that are being done to us. The best way to reciprocate things that are being done probably for us is to receive them by showing thanks, showing our act of thanksgiving. We can be generous as receivers. It does not necessarily mean you have to give alone to show that you are generous. You can be a receiver and still show your kind act of being generous. So this is critical. It is important for us, even as we move on with our daily activities, as we move on with our businesses. Let us learn to be generous. Be generous to your customers, be generous to your colleagues at work, your friends, and especially people on the street, people you don't know. Don't forget, it is not about the money you can give, it is not about the cash you can offer to people. Of course, we are not saying giving cash is not good or not important. It is. But beyond your cash, beyond the money you can give, we must learn to show some of this act. Checking on people too is an act of being generous. Calling friends that you have missed over a while is an act of being generous. And we must learn to do this at every point in time, even as we move on with our daily lives. Thank you so much for having me.